Cheers. Cheers. Well, it's that time again.
I'm Annie.
I'm Susan.
And this is Two Friends, One Chat. Oh my gosh, I hope that the recorder picked up I was born ready. It was like the most amazing thing because, I do like a little countdown. I'm like, cool, you ready? And I like,
yeah.
And you're like, yeah. And I clicked it, but I clicked it, and then you were like, I was born ready.
I wasn't
like
looking.
Just really getting into the vibe, like really, Oh man, I hope to God that's on the recording. If it makes it, guys, you're welcome. It was awesome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Well, welcome back.
Yes!
We had a really fun last episode where we talked about attachment styles. Really basic, 101. Just
fun, huh?
Yep.
Is that where you're going to go with that one? Okay.
Well, I'd say we both had some personal revelations.
Bam. You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong.
Had no idea I was disorganized when I was, unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like, no idea. But it makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But we covered the 4. Mm-hmm. And now it's a perfect lead into a topic I'm really passionate about. And I've referenced it several times, so we're going to do a really basic level of TBRI.
Okay.
Which stands for Trust-Based Relational Intervention.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Listeners, I'm with you on this. I'm learning. I have not heard of this before. I mean, you've mentioned that you did a course or something on this. So we are learning together, listeners. I'm very excited.
Oh my goodness. I'm very excited to share. This is what I will say. We posted a video about from the Karen Purvis website. Okay. Which is about, I think it's like a 2-minute video. And it's very entry level. So if you haven't seen the video, I would #pause this episode, watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one I'm going to link.
Yes. You can also wait till the end of the episode.
Or have linked. I mean, when you hear this, I will have linked it already. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
I love it. And it's really helpful in kind of talking about where this intervention came from, basing it on a child's needs.
Yeah.
It's also got some pretty cute animation, and it's very short. So I highly recommend reviewing that video either before we start or at the end. Go over it. It can kind of help tie it all together.
Yes, agreed. It was a great little video.
Yes, and this is a practice that came out of the 1970s. Karen Purvis was she's a very smart lady. She's since deceased. She's written 2 books. I mean, she's written more than 2 books, but she has 2 books on this subject. And what happened was kind of the development of this approach was, do you remember when, I remember this because it was kind of a big deal in our church system to, lots of adoptions from children from Ukraine. Do you remember that? It was it wasn't necessarily like a fad. That sounds like that's a really dark way of describing it, but for some reason it was common.
Yes, okay.
And as those kids grew, those adoptions failed. And it led to the why. Why is this happening, right? Why is there such a disconnect? And, yeah.
Trauma with a capital T, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine, even in the perfect, case scenario, adoption from another country, I mean, I just don't think you could avoid trauma. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Of course.
Yeah.
Just the sheer moving of places that far.
Right.
Right. And a culture that different. But I think what really came out of the research was, like we talked about earlier, kids develop survival strategies. That's what we do. And a lot of those survival strategies look like people pleasing. And so it's you have this dream child until they hit adult, and this is when most of the adoptions failed. And coming from my lens of working in child welfare, once I took this course, I was we need to implement this into everything, because this is how to get successful connection to an attachment.
Okay.
To a child who has come from a place that you don't even know what they've experienced. Right. Like this is so, and the kind of the cool thing is, the more we dive into it, you don't necessarily need to know. Now, it is helpful to, if you, like, can, like, label some of the things a kid has experienced.
Sure.
So you can, like, avoid triggers.
Avoid triggers,
sure.
Exactly.
And you don't have to. Like, there is a way to establish attachment. So we talked about our own personal attachment styles in our last one. Mm-hmm. This is going to be an overview of a curriculum that helps you, one, dive into that also, because you need to know yours.
100%.
Yeah, to support other people. And I can't stress that enough, because if you are living in dysregulated attachment, trying to support other people, it's not going to go super great.
No. Not going to work so well.
I can't stress that enough. So know yourself. Find ways to get yourself into that secure attachment area.
Okay.
And then you can know how to, like, support people.
Would some of these things that we're going to talk about work, like, could you use them on yourself?
Oh, yeah. TBRI yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay.
Heck yeah. And I think you can help educate your intimate partners, and you're like, we talk about that circle, like your really strong inner circle, #throwback to social mapping, but how to meet your needs.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's yes, absolutely. There are principles in this that will also help you with fellow adults that you know are in trauma brain.
So you can use these principles you're going to go over really with anybody. I know it's curriculum-wise really is based on children, but you can use it outside of that scenario.
Absolutely. If you are working with anyone that has experienced trauma, like especially if you're serving any level of clients, it can be adults, developmental disabilities. These are tips and tricks that will, and this is why I love the curriculum the most. We'll talk about kind of an overarching, but they give you physical indicators, things that you can do to increase attachment with other people, to build trust, to have someone have like their needs are being met, feel like they're, like that's a felt thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so that it was once I'll tell a story. This, I think our listeners will enjoy this. So I took this course because it was CEUs. I needed CEUs.
Gotta have them.
Yeah, and it was like 12 hours of CEUs. And usually you have to go to the conference.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like,
also 12 hours of CEUs, congratulations, like in one shot.
It was great. It was super
love that.
great.
Love that.
And it's usually a week-long conference, but COVID had happened. And so for the first time, they were doing it virtual. And I was like, great. This is like check and check. And you could complete the classes kind of on your own time.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was like a perfect scenario because I couldn't have taken like a week off work,
Yeah.
And I was doing direct casework at the time. And I go to take it. And do you know who some of our listeners may know, some may not, Stephen Curtis Chapman?
Yes.
So he is a Christian music artist.
Yes.
And he did the opener for...
What?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Yes. Okay. Oh, I'm scared. You scared me with this now.
I was like, damn it, I have made a huge mistake. Oh, no. But then I'm like, but these are CEUs. So, like...
Right.
That means they're board certified. Like,
yes, exactly.
But I was like, why does this open with such a religious... I was like, oh, no. Then I took the training, and it turns out, so his church had sponsors a lot of international adoptions.
Oh.
And so they were instituting this curriculum because they were seeing that pattern of failed adoptions. And so the curriculum itself isn't God-based.
Okay, perfect.
Which was a helpful distinction.
Yeah.
Because I panicked. I was like, I don't know.
Do this. I mean, I've got to get the CEUs, but I can't do this.
Yeah, I paid for it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so it was really helpful. So I had like a chuckle to myself because what came out of it was incredibly fruitful.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk about like the three like pillars of TBRI, so trust-based relational intervention. And then we're going to do a follow-up episode with one of the last pieces, which is, we'll get to it, but just know that #redo one of our next upcoming episodes, is all about one of the principles, and I think one of the strongest one we can use as adults.
Yeah.
So, but it has to do with connection before correction. That's one of the first principles. Yeah.
Connection before correction. Yes. I love that.
And anytime there, in fact, because I think most of the time when people are working with a difficult, even, we'll just say difficult person.
Okay.
Right? In this case, it came out of child science.
Right.
Like, I've got this difficult kid, and, in the 90s, it was like, well, then you discipline them, right?
Yes.
We didn't have a lot of things right back then.
Bless our hearts.
God bless us. And what we know is that relationship is everything. So when we did things to correct our kids or our coworkers that sent them away and didn't honor that relationship, like, that is a punishment. That's like a death sentence.
Yes,
we know
right.
now, right? And I guess not all systems know that, but science knows that.
Science knows.
Yeah, so we'll catch up.
And did you know that science is real?
What? You stop it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, here, let me pull up. So I gotta pull up my notes and my little guide.
Okay. And cut this if needed, but I'm just thinking back to with Stephen Curtis Chapman. I was just thinking, like, even Christian conservatives get it right occasionally.
We can't cut that. I think that's
great. But I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
No, I think that's like the sweetest thing, because obviously I'm coming from I've said it, like, I'm coming from a biased lens because my personal experience sucked.
Yeah.
But, like, Christianity, excuse me, I think my nose is running, my goodness, can be a huge support for people.
It totally can. It totally can.
Just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean it isn't for other people.
Yes, it does work well for a lot of people. And it's very supportive. So, if that's you, man, do it.
You do you.
You do you.
Okay, so I think one of the first principles, I'm going to try to make this synopsis good.
Okay.
Forgive me if it isn't. Okay, so the first thing is, like, we talk about, or like the curriculum talks about in an emphasis, and this is science gnosis, right, is how, and we've talked about it, how the brain develops differently in a trauma response.
Sure.
So, this is specific to kids, but it can be anybody.
Right.
Because your brain's going to develop, and if you don't do what we talked about in the last episode and work to retrain your brain, it's going to be still functioning. So your frontal cortex, right? Way overdeveloped. You got cortisol. Yeah. I always want to say cortisone. God bless me.
Isn't that like anti-itch
cream? Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's in the forefront of my mind. I just got a stress rash, you guys, and I had it just all over me. It was great. God bless. Oh, Lord.
Cortisol. Okay.
Cortisol.
We're producing too much of it in trauma.
All the time. So your adult brain is overproducing all the time.
Gotcha.
If, like, you haven't done any or had any, like, levels of intervention in between. So,
okay.
So then we've got this brain that's traumatized. So now it kind of is, how do we intervene? So, again, you have to do the work on yourself to know your attachment style, to get yourself to secure attachment, or at least to know your triggers.
Right.
And kind of think about, and this is why I love this tool so much, is it's going to give you physical indicators and ways to build that trust. And I want to be clear, like, if you're working, there are differences, right? If this is a child and it's like a parent-child relationship and you're building that trust, it's going to look different from if this is a client.
Okay.
Right? Like,
sure.
Boundaries are going to need,
sure.
But you can meet the needs of a client or a child in trauma. There are some similarities.
Okay.
Yes.
But in general, we're thinking, okay, I am seeing either a child, a client, a person I'm in a personal relationship with, myself, in kind of this trauma dysregulated state.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm going to bring in these principles to help that person, child, or myself re-regulate.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I think it even goes for, like, the person doesn't have to be showing signs of dysregulation, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes kids present not dysregulated, but they are dysregulated.
So using these principles just in relationship in general,
Yes.
not to, like, de-escalate a situation.
Exactly. Yep.
But this is just the healthiest way to create relationship.
Yeah, I would say, I don't want to say healthiest way.
Okay.
I would love that, but I think this is one approach that I have seen be successful.
Gotcha.
And I've seen it save, like, it really, really helps parents. So here's a very, like, we're going to take it back a little bit. Childhood trauma doesn't necessarily mean, like, a kid in care comes to live with you, right? Like,
oh, sure.
A child can actually experience, and their brain can be differently formed from a difficult birth.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that birth might not just be hard on you. That kiddo may have, like, childhood trauma from it.
From that.
Literally nobody's fault. Everybody's responsibility. You know what I mean? Like, which is...
Or just, like, life circumstances. Maybe a parent passes away.
Exactly.
Or there's a natural disaster.
Yep.
Okay.
All these things. And brains are different. We know that. So you could have two kids, same age. One of them experiences that event as a traumatic event. It is imprinted on them as a traumatic event, and the other one doesn't.
Right.
So, like, they're, like, kind of understanding those nuances of trauma is really important, because I think a less evolved species, like, so years ago, we would just view one of those children as good and one as bad.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But when really one of them's just, like, that is how their brain processed this experience.
Right.
Which is just an interesting thing about the brain in general. Oh. So this isn't it. Now, in my world, I loved this curriculum because it helped caregivers support and love kiddos that have come from unknown levels of trauma.
Right.
So, like, it really saved placements, really, frankly.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful gift to give a kiddo.
Yeah.
But this is much more than applicable to just those scenarios.
Right.
And so, like, just kind of covering that a little bit. But the idea is there is connection, there is empowering, and then there is correction.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, like, the empowerment is, like, you are there, present, meeting their physical needs.
Okay.
Right? Like, and, man, you say so much to a kid or person when you say that. Like,
okay.
I think about this sometimes as a clinician, and it's as easy as, like, can I get you a glass of water? Like, can I, like, just showing that, like, because people aren't their best when they're dehydrated.
Right.
People aren't their best when they're hungry. What did you say? Can you tell the listeners?
Oh!
This is, like, the greatest thing.
I was just because I had not heard of this, so I was asking Annie if it had anything to do with HALT, which I have definitely heard before, when yourself or someone you're working with or a child is kind of like dysregulated, right? You want to halt, you want to stop, but it stands for check to make sure, are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired?
Aww.
Like, check all those things before you, like, maybe you just need a nap.
Yeah.
Okay? Then we can get back on track. So,
I love that.
And it turned out it did not come from this curriculum, but kind of similar.
Oh, yeah.
Similar ideas, but you've got to connect with the person before you start empowering them, it sounds like.
Yes.
Connection is first.
Yeah, connection is everything.
Okay.
Which is also why I love this curriculum, because it really emphasizes what we already know, and it's that relationship is everything.
Okay.
And, there are, what I really love about this, and if you are interested in exploring it, what it talks about is how you appropriately physically meet those, like, empowerment. Like,
okay.
What does that look like? So, like, they give examples. Like, they, for kiddos that you don't know where they come from, let's say you're a foster parent, and these are lots of the tools that I take from it, right, because it's so applicable to my field, but having snacks available and open to have at any time.
Yes.
That is a way you can show that. Having a water bottle that, if the kiddo is not old enough to carry it, you always have it with you, and, like, giving them little prompts and reminders to, like, stay hydrated. Like, So it gives you like those physical, like tangible things that you can do.
Yeah.
One of the principles is 10 minutes of, and this is more in the attachment. This is the connection.
Yeah.
Part. So like, how do you build attachment, right? That seems like kind of a nuanced idea.
Yeah.
And it's 10 minutes of guided play where you say yes at every possibility you can. Like, you basically only say no if they're, and it's just 10 minutes a day.
Interesting.
Because like, oh man, it's so amazing. And even like how you touch a person, right? Like,
right.
Because we do need touch, but of course touch can be done wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So often. And it goes as far as to look at like, so when you've experienced trauma, like your nerves can not, like, we see that a lot in like tactilely presenting, like, you know, like you don't, certain things you can't even wear because it's just like totally dysregulates.
Yes, yes.
So there's a certain level of touch where it's not, if you like, you know, go up to a kid and you like rub their arm too light and they've experienced a lot of trauma, that'll be instantly irritating to them.
Right.
So it's even like how you touch them is like very soft, but there is like a level of like kind of pressure. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you guys, I don't mean bruising pressure, but like, you know, so, and you look in their eyes and like, and so there's all these guided tools to help you get to that level, science-based.
So is connection something that is going to take me a while to build with someone?
Oh, yes.
Before I can use the empowering and correcting? Or is there a quick way to connect with like a coworker quickly and do these steps? Or So no, it's sounding like.
I don't know. I don't think I know enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, though, you would need to use this kind of tool and ideas the best.
Yeah.
You'd want to spend some time building connection
yes.
with the person you're hoping to help.
Absolutely.
With the correction of whatever the thing is.
Yep.
Okay. So spending some time without empowering or correcting, just connecting.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that empowering kind of comes along at the same time as connecting.
Sure.
So, yeah, like I think they describe it as like a little circle graphic, and I have it in my little book, but we can, I'll try to find like a good, not black and white copy because it's a workbook for the website. But yeah, it's like those two things happen at the same time. Or like, excuse me, there's connection in the middle. So it is everything. That's got to happen first. And then empowering and correcting are like a part of it as well.
Gotcha.
And I love when they talk about correction because, so first you're connecting and they give you the tools to do that. It is, if you read the first book, it's pretty early on. And so it's really just about kids.
Sure.
Like, and then there's a second one that came out more geared for like a manual for parents. Shoot, I should have remembered what the book was called.
Well, if we find it, we can link it, but...
Yeah.
But like you were saying, I mean, making eye contact, that's a huge way to connect with someone. Appropriate physical touch.
Yeah, which is huge.
Right, which is huge. And I totally understand, especially people that maybe have some trauma, that light touch can be very dysregulating. So having more of a kind of solid, safe touch feels...
Yes.
Why you think the world loves weighted blankets, right?
Oh, man, I do
we
love
need
them.
some of that pressure.
We do. Yes, and I want to be clear, this isn't like, you're not physically moving the child.
No.
This has to do with touching and eye contact at the same time. And how that eases
not to pick and move someone up, but just like actively engaging with this person, making eye contact, touching their arm. Yes.
And when you get to see the 10 minutes of like child guided play, it is such a joy to do with a kid. Mm-hmm. Like, it is so awesome. Like,
and with an adult, I would assume it'd be more like active listening, right?
Yeah.
Like really engaging, hearing what they're saying, kind of parroting back, making sure you're understanding them.
Yes.
Offering kind of just positive support around what they're telling you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think, you know, I don't know if there's any curriculum that's come out as an evidence-based practice that takes TBRI and gears it specifically towards adults. But
okay, but all adults are wounded children at their core, so like
couldn't agree more.
I can't. There's no way it's not gonna
totally
be helpful.
And what's really great about this theory of like connection first and understanding like, I think I would expand on connection first as saying like if you want to truly connect with someone, you need to again get yourself into like that healthy attachment zone.
Right. So yes.
So like you've gotten yourself there, and now you're like working to connect with someone using these tools. And then you're empowering, and then what correction actually looks like, which isn't the absence of relationship anymore, right?
Right.
Correction is always done by bringing in.
Yes.
And like this theory of a redo, which is really exciting to talk about. But first is more of an overview of TBRI. So it's a couple books. They give you these tools on how to do these principles. It's a trust-based relational intervention. No, I mean to say it's an evidence-based practice. So it's like got science behind it, and then it has a lot to do with how these things end up retraining your brain. And, for if you're raising a child, you're gonna get the child to a point where they can have healthy attachment, like secure attachment, like we talked about, and really change the brain chemistry of that overproduction of cortisol.
Yes.
And so like that part of it is evidence-based, but what's super cool about this approach, and it gives me goosebumps, is state systems have started adopting this into like court systems.
Okay.
And their success rate is a lot higher because it's basically saying like, our judicial system of like having this punitive, I don't need to get to know you, you fucked up, now you're in trouble.
Right.
Nobody does better that way, right?
Right. No, that never helps.
It just doesn't work. And I don't know how to express that any more frank. But so systems are starting to adopt these principles too.
Yeah.
So they're much more than just like how to preserve a placement.
Yeah.
It also does that. And it really takes like the punitive part of correction out, right?
Okay.
This is not about discipline. This is about like behavior change. Okay. So the idea of a redo is like your brain will not automatically, just because it's connected to like a person it can regulate with, will not automatically stop all its patterns.
Right.
You're still going to act up.
You've got to retrain it.
Yeah. And so when it does, instead of having any level of punishment, any level of like punitiveness, the whole goal says we get you back to that baseline. We do whatever we got to do. I like you're hungry. What do you call it? Halt. You could use that tool.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, before we do any correction, we get you back to baseline.
We check all those sorts of things.
Yeah. Are you hungry?
Do you need a snack? Do you need some water?
Do you need a nap? We meet all that first.
Do you need some like personal connection? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Do you just need a moment to tactilely be alone and do whatever you need to do, and then you come back and you do a redo. So it does come full circle, right?
Yeah.
So let's say like, and this is the principle I love so much, and we're gonna just totally talk about it because this is one you can use as an adult. Ooh. Even if you're a parent, because guess what, parents, you're gonna snap.
Yeah.
And you know what? That is okay. So okay.
Yeah.
What's important is what you do with it.
That's exactly right. What do you do next?
And that kids learn that they can model that too, because we can definitely heal the brain, but it'll never be perfect. Yeah. Right? Like, and also sets of circumstances are going to overwhelm you because that's life. Like the universe is random.
Yeah.
And so it's just this idea that connection is always first, and then you need to make sure that empowerment piece is there, like the physical needs are met. This person, you're not ostracizing them. You never break connection for correction, ever.
Okay.
Connection is primary. It is the most important thing. And then correction looks a lot more like getting you back to baseline, and then you get a redo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is correction. Like the whole point of correction is back to baseline, #redo.
And then let's try this again.
Yeah. And it could take a really long time. I think what's difficult, and she kind of talks about this in the video, and the video is more about parenting, the parenting piece of it, like the circular parenting piece, but this takes time. Mm-hmm. This approach takes more time than spanking your kid.
Of course. Well, of course this takes time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's worth it.
Yeah.
And it's worth it as an adult. But, I mean, I could see this actually now that I'm talking about it this way, and I had never really thought about this, but I think if you supervised people or you were a manager, mm-hmm. this might be a really helpful tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. And I would assume the more you use this, the shorter that whole process probably becomes. Absolutely. Or that child or person is able to kind of do this for themselves at some point.
Yes.
Kind of be like, oh, that didn't work. I need to go get myself whatever I need mm-hmm. to get back and then try that thing again.
Yeah, and I think the principle of redo also has pretty different, like, with parent-child. Yeah. And, like, you know, that looks very different depending on what the relationship looks like. Okay. But, you know, like, the idea for parent-child is, you know, you're the parent. You are the adult, right?
Yes.
Like, you are you're the responsible one.
Yes.
So redos for kids, if they, you know, say they had a bad day at school and they come in and I don't know if you've ever seen an 8-year-old swear a lot. It's really quite precious. But you know you don't want them to, like, do that behavior, right? Okay. So they come in and they're like, this is the worst day. And they're, you know, like, or they call somebody a naughty name, right?
Yeah.
You know, you'd be like, okay, well, #redo. You can even do something funny like that. Like, feel your feelings. I hear you. Here's a snack. Let's get you down to baseline. And then retell that and not say that.
Yeah, like reshare mm-hmm. what's going on.
Yeah. Now,
without the naughty language.
In an interpersonal relationship, though, #redo mm-hmm. is equally as important.
Yeah.
But if you call your partner a naughty name, you don't just get a redo. There are, like, you need to, what do they call the therapeutic term for reparations?
Yeah.
So the redo it can look a lot different depending on the relationship.
Of course.
Which is worth stressing. But the whole idea is you take, like, shame and blame out of it, get the kiddo to baseline, and then you've empowered this kid to believe that at baseline they can have totally pro-social behavior.
Yes.
It's a huge deal.
That they can handle stuff.
Yeah. And you are just putting those tools in their tool belt. You are giving them every tool to make it.
To me, my takeaways,
tell me,
being new to this, is that you cannot help someone change behavior without connection.
That's right. That's 100% right.
You can't just walk up to someone, spank them, and expect behaviors to change. Yeah. No.
That's absolutely
it might stop that behavior in the moment, but you're only creating more trauma.
Correct.
And which will create worse behaviors later on, right? So it's about connecting first and foremost.
Yeah.
And without that, man.
There is, it's really interesting too. I'm not sure. Have you ever heard of the book Radical Candor?
Mm-mm.
So that has, it doesn't mean to, has very strong ties to TBRI, but it is about management and managing people.
Okay.
And it really talks about, like, don't give feedback if, like, the intent isn't there. Like, if the intent is to, you know, like, the empowerment and the betterment of, like, whatever you're working on.
Yeah.
They call that's, like, radical candor. That's, like, the sweet spot of giving, like, constructive feedback. Because I think constructive feedback usually isn't actually constructive.
No.
But, so, though, like, I would actually highly recommend knowing and studying both if you're going to manage people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which makes total sense. Like, you want to feel connected and have a trusting relationship with your manager, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. And then, like, don't tell me I did something wrong on an empty stomach at the end of the day on a Friday. Like, get me regulated or help me provide a space and time for me to get to baseline.
Yep.
Then share what's going on with me.
Love that.
So I can have a better chance of #redo. Or fixing whatever the issue is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true.
It is, yeah. I am a huge fan of this. And if you are an adoptive parent, mm-hmm. a foster parent, a bonus parent, Like there's a million, if you are in any way connected to caregiving with people with trauma, like maybe you work in a hospital or you're a caregiver or you're a nurse. Oh my gosh, if you're a nurse, bless you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
You are wonderful. But I highly recommend to dive into this a little bit because it has helped change my perspective of when I see people melting down or like when someone they struggle, they've got a struggle and maybe they direct that at me, especially like teens and kids I work with. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
And I can use every skill to soothe that. And that's my job, to be like that Neosporin.
Yeah.
And now this gave me a toolbook to be like that Neosporin for that moment of things I can do. Like,
we really do love open wounds, man. We just keep coming back.
Yep. And I will
stick some Neosporin on that.
Oh man, Neosporin every cut, every time. Actually, I think you're supposed to use like Trisporin or something like that. Like you want the 3.
Okay.
Neosporin's only 2. It's actually not as good for you, but every cut, every time.
Okay.
And a lot of my job, I am not their primary caregiver, so I can't like know all the things to help them, but I can use this tool, like these tools in TBRI to soothe the situation at hand and to meet their basic needs. I can do that.
Well, and on this, because I don't have kids, so it's a little more difficult for me to think in those terms, but I'm just thinking even for myself, like this makes so much sense that in my 20s, when I was more anxious. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't trust myself, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I couldn't ever get to baseline to do things differently, right?
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
To, like, change my behavior.
Yes.
But the work I did, I started believing in myself, better self-esteem, doing my work, right? So I'm literally connecting with myself, my adult self.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then I think we all, as adults, know when we are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, right?
Yeah.
And we know how to get ourselves a snack, or I just need to go lay down, right? Yeah. So doing those things before I try to jump into... Like, I wouldn't want to go to a therapy session exhausted and hungry, right? I'm not going to get as much out of it. You. So, like, even just thinking about this with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the big, like, mind blow thing was I couldn't do that before because I wasn't connected with myself. Not my adult self. Yeah. I was still my wounded kid.
Yeah.
So connecting with adult me made a safe space to do the work I needed to.
Oh, I love that. I don't think I've ever seen TBRI applied so internally. And I love that because...
But kind of, right?
Yeah, it 1,000% makes sense. Okay. And it totally kind of jumps off. And I do think TBRI does a little bit of this. Like, when you go to the conference, the first part is a lot of people talking about how they learned their attachment styles.
Sure.
And they learned their triggers. They don't do a ton about moving to secure attachment, at least not in the training I did. And I think they would really probably benefit from adding that because I think what you've described is exactly right. Like, you can't mirror connection before correction unless you can do it for yourself.
Right.
And I think that is just a really beautiful example of true empowerment, right? Is to be like connected to a healthy version of yourself that you made because you were empowered to do so. Like, that's so... And I loved what you said. Like, I think most adults know when they're tired and hungry. They don't.
We don't. Okay.
We totally don't. And we're going to talk about that in Redo.
So maybe halting yourself more often to learn.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why am I in such a bad mood right now?
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
Usually, let's be honest, it's a snack. I need a snack.
I think...
Hangry is a thing. Hangry is real.
Is a reality.
Snickers hit that one right on the nose.
Oh my God, those commercials
are real.
Great. And also...
I'm not even a huge Snicker fan.
No.
A Snicker wouldn't fix...
No. I think
cheese maybe would fix for me.
Ooh.
I love cheese.
You know what sounds really good? You know when they like do the crunchy cheese snacks?
Ooh.
It's like a cracker, but it's made out of cheese. It's like terrible for your cholesterol and sodium off the charts. So
good. Sodium
good.
is my jam.
I know. Me and sodium. BFFs. I would take sodium over sugar like any day.
Well, that's a good point though. So if you're an adult and you find yourself not knowing like why you're having this thing, maybe try halting yourself, man.
Oh, we're going to talk about that in the hashtag video. So stay tuned, you guys. So I can't talk about TBRI enough.
Sure.
It's a great principle. So again, if you are working with populations that have experienced trauma, and especially if you're a parent of a kiddo that's experienced trauma, I highly recommend to do a deeper dive into TBRI. You can go to the conference. You will experience a great level of support because there are people going through what you're going through, and I want to validate that's a really difficult place to be in.
Yeah.
So there is a great level of camaraderie. There's also like support groups through TBRI and studies. So 10 of 10, explore that. It is an evidence-based practice. I think the Institute is out of Texas. It's absolutely worth a read of the book. Mm-hmm. Actually, both books. There are 2 books.
Okay.
The Connected Child.
Okay.
And The Connected Parent. I believe
that's
right. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And they're great. So The Connected Child is first, and that is younger levels of science, still great. And then The Connected Parent is maybe more like a little bit more like parent empowerment. Oh. So the principles are, they again, I'm not sure if anything's been written. I'll have to do some research on how. There's a documentary about it for sure, about how it's being instituted into systems.
Yes.
But I don't know if there's like a guidebook.
Well, that totally makes sense because you as a parent would need to be in a good space to be able to provide that for the child. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah. So, of course, you'd have to do it to yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah. But I think, am I right? In next episode, we get to dive into hashtag redo a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay. I think we're going to have a lot of fun because 43 minutes. We've already hit time. It's crazy how fast this goes. But we're going to explore a little more how that looks adult to an adult and maybe in interpersonal relationships and maybe give some examples of how we've used it. Hashtag redo.
Just redo in general. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. Yeah. And I can't thank you guys enough for joining us.
Wow.
I highly recommend TBRI. Remember, connection before correction.
I wrote it down.
Bam. Yeah. That I think is probably the biggest takeaway. There's so much there, though, that's so good and so juicy.
But if you need the one nugget to walk away with today, it's connection before correction.
Absolutely.
Even with yourself.
Yes.
Wow.
Bam.
Wow.
Bam. You guys, this was a great episode. Okay, stay tuned for in 2 weeks. It'll post. You'll see hashtag redo. And thank you for joining us for season 2. And reach out if you had any aha moments.
Please.
Yes.
Even if you didn't and you thought, hey, that was dumb. Do this instead. Great.
I'm in.
Great. Everything's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. But but let us know what you would rather hear about instead.
Yeah, because we want to cover it. Our email is twofriends.onechat@gmail.com.
Correct.
And our you can visit our website or at twofriends1chat. Yep, no dot.
.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Reach out, hang out.
Insta, Facebook.
Yeah, Two Friends One Chat, right?
Yeah.
Come
find us.
Come find us.
And connect with us.
Wow.
You're
nice.
welcome.
Connect with us.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, we'll see you guys soon and have a wonderful rest of your day or night or evening or wherever.
Middle of the night, whatever. You do you. Mm-hmm. Night owls. I don't know you, but because I'd be sleeping. Yeah,
we're more
one of those morning ones.
Yeah, we like to wake up early and start recording. I'm like a flower. I blossom in the morning and I wilt in the afternoon. That's what I tell every boss. I'm like, you want me at my best? It's like 7 a.m. And I will crush it.
Not a raccoon, I'm a flower.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I know you raccoons are like sleeping it and then like sun goes down and you're like, I'm creative now. No. Okay. I am creative at the sunrise.
In the AM.
Okay. You guys have a wonderful day.
Yes.
See you soon.
We love you.
Bye.